Joining us now, Scott Rasmussen, scottrasmussen.com, number one pollster in America, and he's with us now. Scott, great to have you, sir.
Always good to be with you, John.
Now, Scott, you are the number one pollster. I say it all the time because you're the most accurate. There seems to be a little shift now, according to your latest polls. It's a tiny little itty-bitty shift moving towards Trump. The bottom has seemed to have fallout. Now he's creeping back. Is this real?
It is real, but it's also easy to overstate. You know, it wasn't all that long ago that I was on your show and saying that Joe Biden was up by 12 points. And you know, as the civil rights issue was flaring across the nation, that really played to one of Trump's weaknesses. And as you put it, the bottom seemed to fall out. Our latest numbers show him down by 8, and there for a couple of weeks. And it's, you know, I wouldn't say that being down by 8 points is the place you want to be, but being down by 8 points among registered voters with a long way to go, you know, is manageable. It is possible right now to envision Donald Trump coming back and winning this election because we're in such a volatile year.
Well, and like you said, I mean, and I agree with you 100%. I'd rather be down by 8 than down by 12. When it was just 3 weeks ago you were on here, and you know, down by 13 or 12 or 13, and I mean that's just a big number. That's a big number, and the president was heading south, right? Because for 3 weeks in a row you got on, the numbers got worse, and we're saying, okay, where's bottom? Seems like he hit bottom. Now he's starting to come back a little bit, and law and order is a big issue. In the 8 points, you got Biden at 45%. Of course, this is nationally. Trump at 37%. Right. So he's starting to close the gap. But now you got Biden well under 50%.
That's right. And look, there's 12% of voters who are undecided. Some of them are going to decide not to show up and vote. There's room for some movement in here. And again, I think you put it very well. There was a sense of hitting bottom. It looked like Biden was going to be coasting to victory. And in fact, what the Trump campaign is probably hoping for is that Biden gets as cocky as Hillary Clinton did 4 years ago and make their job easier for them. You know, there are two big issues out there, and either one of them can turn for or against the president. Obviously, the big issue this year is the pandemic. And, you know, it's one of these strange things. 6 months ago, nobody had ever heard of the word social distancing, and now it's like the most commonly used phrase in public policy discussions. But we went from first hearing about it to the president being criticized for overreacting when he banned travel from China, to the early phase of the lockdowns, and Americans have been on a real emotional roller coaster through all of this. You know, when it first began, people were saying, okay, we can buckle down. Most Americans thought all the lockdowns would be over by Memorial Day. And there was a sense from, say, March through early June, mid-June, that things were getting better. People were more and more likely to say the worst is behind us. But starting in mid-June, the perceptions of the pandemic have gotten far more pessimistic. And now, for the first time in quite a while, we're actually seeing more people saying the health threat is once again the bigger concern than the economic threat. So if that trend continues, that's bad news for the president. But again, it's been a big change in 6 weeks. It might change again in the next 6 weeks. The other issue, you called it law and order. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, the other issue, you referred to it as law and order.
Yes.
And there's a tension between a civil rights issue and a law and order issue. And the more it is perceived as a civil rights issue, that there are people who are peacefully protesting, expressing legitimate grievance, the more that helps Joe Biden. The more it becomes a law and order issue, the more it helps Donald Trump. And what we have seen is there has been an increase or a narrowing. Early on, people saw it overwhelmingly as a civil rights issue. Now voters are pretty evenly divided. And so that, again, is setting up the stage potentially for some good news for the president.
And the division, Scott Rasmussen with us, go to scottrasmussen.com. The division is such, I've never seen a division along political lines like this. Like a simple poll you did about opening up Major League Baseball, right? So 43% wanted open. They're majority Republicans. 43% wanted shut down. And they're mainly Democrats. I mean, what difference is it if you're a Democrat or a Republican if you want to watch baseball? I mean, why is baseball split now amongst R&D?
Well, that was one of the saddest poll findings I've come across in a while, because everything you do right now is being interpreted in light of the pandemic and politics and policy. And so I made the comment when I wrote that poll up that the divisions we're seeing, the split between opening and reopening baseball, has nothing to do with baseball fans, has nothing to do with anything except your views on the pandemic. Back in a more innocent time, I remember doing polls about building major league stadiums. And guess what? Baseball fans thought it was a good idea for their city to provide a stadium. People who didn't care didn't think it was a good idea. But at least that was a commentary about baseball, and nothing is escaping the overarching discussions of politics at the moment.
That's really sad. That to me, that poll you did, that's why I brought it up. I was shaking my head. I thought it was a sad poll because, I mean, what does baseball have to do with the election? But everything now, whether it's going back to school, opening school, sending your kids, baseball, everything is being viewed in, how is it going to affect the election? And if it's going to help Trump, which opening up baseball does, right, because you want to get back to normal and have some fun, then the Democrats are opposed to it. So they don't want you to have any fun. They want you to be depressed, and they just want to flood the zone with misery and crises. And like I had a neighbor of mine, not a poll, just a neighbor, Trump voter, basically a Trump voter, Republican, voted for like Rubio and, not like a Trump voter like me, just average Republican. And she said to me, I think I'm voting for Biden. And I'm like, well, why? And she's like, you know what? If Biden wins, this is just all going to go away. It's just all going to stop. It just stops. The mobs will stop. The looting will stop. The kids will go back to school. Just the hell with it. Just give them the power so we can all get back to living. And I'm like, I don't know about that, but that's what that's what at least that one individual said. And I think that's the Democrat strategy. Just flood the zone with misery, and you're not going to reelect the incumbent.
Yeah, I think there is a sense, there is a real fear that if Donald Trump is reelected, violence will result. The progressive left will respond with violence. Now, there are some progressives who think the opposite is true as well, but the feeling is stronger, more intense, that if Trump wins this election, if he comes back and is reelected, there will be an explosion on the progressive left. And I do suspect that there are some voters who are thinking just as you described.
Oh, you got him back. John Fredericks Radio Network. Sorry about that. Scott's call dropped. Don't know what happened to him. Go to ScottRasmussen.com. Scott, we were just talking about baseball and how it's become politically polarized. But one thing about baseball, and then we'll move on, all these pitchers getting hurt. My guy Verlander out for the season, hurt his forearm. That means Tommy John. I mean, been there, done that.
Right.
So that's where he's going. Last night, Corey Kluber threw, 3 pitches or 2 outs or something. Right. He's gone for this season. The guy on the Angels got bombed, the two-way player, I can never say his name. He pitched the other day. He didn't get an out. 4 walks, 3 hits. He's out. They say his arm's hurt. A lot of this is because they didn't get the proper spring training, I guess.
Well, yeah, whether you're a player or a fan, there is a certain rhythm to baseball that is comforting and reassuring. And I think the certainly if these players didn't get their normal spring training, they had a little start and then a stop, and then they did this, and then I think that is very difficult on these players, and especially because this isn't like baseball when you and I were kids. You've got professional trainers who have developed routines. You've got these people who have developed their bodies to fit that routine, and something just is not working. And I think on top of all of that, there is sort of a fear factor that adds a little stress to your body, and that's probably affecting some of these pitchers.
Well, I would say so, and it kind of, when 3 or 4 pitchers like that go down in the first week, all-star, a couple of them, Corey Kluber's got a shot for the Hall of Fame. Certainly Verlander's getting there. I mean, you take my team, you take Verlander out of that rotation, we're done. I mean, it's just over.
Right. Well, and on my team, the Yankees, Paxton's first outing, his velocity was down about 4 miles an hour from his normal level. So there's a sense, maybe he wasn't quite ready to get there either. He didn't last through 2 innings.
Plus Serrano's out, right? Soriano's out for the season. Plus your closer's out. He's out for the season. I mean, it's like, so now I guess we're even. All the pitches are going down. But
well, my biggest
Cole.
question. Yeah, well, and Zach Britton isn't a bad closer if we need to. But my biggest concern about the season is whether they'll be allowed to finish it. And by the way, talking about strange rhythms, you get all set for, and again, in my case, Yankees go down to play the Phillies, and then you have the Marlins incident, so those games are canceled, and all of a sudden they say, oh, we're changing the schedule. Now they're going to Baltimore for a couple of days. And it's like, this just doesn't feel like baseball.
But I have to hand it to the Major League Baseball because there was a lot of pressure on them to just cancel the season. That's what Fauci said. And I just thought that would have been a disaster, just mentally for people. And to MLB's credit, they're like, okay, look, these people got sick in the Marlins. Every one of them is asymptomatic. They have no symptoms. That's why we have a 30-man roster. We're going to get through this, and it's going to happen again, and we're going to get through that. So we're going to get – and it's like, it's like I was saying earlier today, we all have to live with the new normal until this thing abates, and it could be a long time. Meantime, you just have to deal with it and adapt to it. Like race fan. I'm at Colonial Downs today in my suite. Now, I can't have anybody in here. We can't do what we normally do, have a big party on race nights. Can't do that. And people aren't allowed, fans aren't allowed to go outside. They can only go inside. Don't ask me why. Makes no sense, but it just doesn't matter. But it's like, okay, we're still racing. I'm still here. And the alternative is shutdown. So you got to take it in context in relation to the alternative.
Well, and everything you're describing also, we are, the beauty of a free society is we're a learning society. Whatever happens with baseball or any of these other issues, or with racing or with things in your daily life, people are going to adapt in different ways as they learn more about it. I mean, I think we can argue all you want about why the fatality rates are lower for the pandemic than they were at the beginning, but the biggest part of it is because we've learned more, because we've learned how to adapt. And what you also see, and I experience it, I'm right now living in New York City. A couple of months ago, I raced out because I had to run to the drugstore to get something for my wife, and I forgot to put a mask on. And people were angry and screaming at me, and it was a really intimidating situation. Well, the other day I went for a walk, and I forgot to put my mask on, and you know what? Nobody said a word. I was still certainly in the minority without a mask on, and it wasn't a political act. I literally was going out for a walk and forgot. But I have noticed that people have relaxed around here a lot more. Government officials haven't, but the people on the street have.
No, that's a good observation. And I was saying earlier that when this whole thing started, I was a big anti-masker, and I thought it was unhealthy, and there was no evidence. Now I just wear it. My wife made it fun. She bought me a Trump mask, so that's fun. She bought me an Astros mask, which I can't wait to go to Washington. I was there for 3 days last week. I wouldn't take it off.
Right.
Everywhere I went, I had the Astros mask on just to piss off the Nationals fans. So that was fun. So then it went from, I don't want to put a mask on, to I don't want to take it off because I aggravate all the Nationals fans. And so you have to adapt. And my wife turned it into fun for me. Like, this is a fun thing, so it's fine. And you just deal with it. And if that means that maybe in a month or so they'll allow 5,000 people into a baseball game and I can go, fine. I'll put the damn mask on. Who cares, right? I don't care.
Right. And that's, and again, people adapt, and people are also respectful of others. Even if you don't think a mask is necessary, you're making it fun because of your baseball ties and your political ties. But even beyond that, most people don't want to offend their neighbors.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
anyhow, it's not worth it, but it is, no matter how we talk about it, it is still going to be the dominant issue. The race and law and order issues are going to be a factor that will play a role in this presidential campaign, but the pandemic and the economy, the way they interact, is still going to be the dominant feature. And there's really not much that either Donald Trump or Joe Biden can do about it. They've made their positions clear, and now we're going to have to see what happens in the real world.
One poll you did, I've only got 2 minutes, that was kind of scary to me. 53% of Americans are more worried about the pandemic threat to their health than the U.S. economy. Now, I was shocked at that.
And that's the way the numbers were back in March. In between, the numbers shifted to more and more people growing concerned about the economy. In mid-June, a majority were concerned about the economy. But the roller coaster has gone in the other direction. And right now, there is greater fear on the health front. And we see it in every type of question I ask. The fear in the last 6 weeks has increased. I don't know what it's going to be like 6 weeks from now, but everybody in the political world and everywhere else is trying to make these assumptions as if we're in a normal time frame. We're not. 6 weeks from now, the perceptions of the pandemic and perceptions of the election could look much different.
Scott Rasmussen, thanks for being with us. Got to go to scottrasmussen.com. Here's the first thing you need to do. Go to scottrasmussen.com and sign up for his daily newsletter. Got to do it. scottrasmussen.com.